Hello everybody and welcome to the interior decorating episode of Meitantei Cure. If you're anything like me, you're probably wondering what's so exciting about interior decorating that they made an entire episode about it. Well, they didn't. The bulk of this episode's plot takes place in a shop that sells interior decoration stuff, to be sure, but it's about an item that gets stolen from the shop, and the protagonist's quest to figure out where it went and who's responsible. But before we get to said shop, let's discuss the state of affairs that set our main characters on their quest. You see, now that Anna and Mikuru are officially members of the Kyoto Detective Agency, they want to spruce up the place where they'll be working. Jet Senpai, who seems to be the actual owner of the building, doesn't get why they want to prettify it, but the girls insist, so they all go shopping. But first, Anna and Mikuru find this mysterious room on the upper floor of the building, and it's surprisingly somber. Tender, emotional music plays in the background as the girls step into a poorly lit storage space. It's almost completely empty, save for a map of the area that has a bunch of circles and X's on it. Anna seems to get upset over something, but she quickly pushes those feelings aside and hides them with a smile. All we hear from her is some mental dialogue about how she wants to visit the place where the Kyoto Detective Agency is once she returns to her own time. This is probably because I'm an autistic idiot who is allergic to subtext, but I genuinely don't get this scene at all. It feels important, but it all goes over my head. Like, why is Anna so upset? And what's with that map anyways? Whatever. As the girls, Jet Senpai, and Pochitan head to the store, we find out some important lore about the Phantom Thieves Guild. Their members are all fairies like Jet Senpai and Pochitan. I guess it's normal for fairies to transform into human forms, and it's not just a Jet Senpai thing. Maybe Pochitan will get a human form too once they become old enough. Also, Jet Senpai is quite serious about stopping the Phantom Thieves. Sure, he's willing to let the girls help out any clients who enter their building, but their first priority will always be fighting back against the guild. Also, Anna brings up a very important point. From what she remembers in 2027, the world isn't covered in lies or anything, so the Phantom Thieves don't succeed at all in their goal in the end, right? Well, according to Jet Senpai, the future isn't set in stone. These evil bad guys could potentially change the future, and it's up to our heroes to stop them from doing that. And then, we get our very first glimpse of the villain's lair. It turns out the place they're all hiding out is a fancy theater. Given the theatrical vibe the Phantom Thieves have had so far, at least the one we've seen, this makes perfect sense. We also get to see villains other than Niji this time. You already know how much I like Niji as a villain so far, so I was wondering how the other villains would live up to that hype while also being distinct characters. How do our new characters pair at this task? Let's go through them one by one. First, we're introduced to the head honcho of this whole operation, Uso Noir. We don't find out much about this guy. Even his face is completely hidden behind a mask. Already he looks intimidating. He's a tall, muscular guy clad in armor, a giant cape, and a fancy George Washington wig. He also has a deep voice. As for what he does, he has this magical book called the Tome of Mirages, which he deciphers bit by bit. The book tells him where the next Makoto jewel is going to show up every episode. By the way, Uso Noir's name is actually very meaningful. Uso is Japanese for lie, and noir is French for black. Pretty on the nose, right? Yeah, we ultimately know hardly anything about this fella, other than that he's a generic doomsday villain who orders the generals around. This is to be expected. The Pretty Cure franchise typically plays its cards very close to its chest about its main antagonists, until very close to the end of the season. It wouldn't be as exciting if you knew everything right away, after all. Second and third, we're simultaneously introduced to Luluka Moria and her fairy partner Mashutan. Luluka is very important because she's the evil Pretty Cure, Pure Arcana Shadow. But we don't see her transform at all this episode. She just stoically watches stuff go down. Like her boss, Luluka's a very mysterious fella. She hardly even talks at all, preferring to let Mashutan do the talking for her. It should be noted that Luluka is near constantly eating ice cream. I'm talking 2 cones of ice cream with 2 scoops each in the span of a single day. This girl's probably wicked rich because ice cream is expensive. Getting more than just 1 scoop is pricey as is, plus a cone instead of a cup? And she's having multiple desserts in a single day? I have no idea how Luluka stays so thin, nor how her wallet stays so thick. We don't find out much about Mashitan either, though she does have more dialogue than her presumably human partner. Though who knows, if the other Phantom Thieves are fairies, maybe Luluka is actually a fairy as well. It would be weird for a fairy to have a fairy partner, though. Anyways, Mashitan doesn't do much, but calmly and smugly comment on how the Cures and the other villains are doing. Again, we don't really know much overall about these 2 either. They're definitely saving the details for later. That being said, despite the fact that we know so dang little about Luluka, she's already a wildly popular character. On Safe Boru alone, Luluka already has 355 drawings as of the writing of this script, and she's only appeared in a single episode so far. I think people really like her cute design and her mysterious, aloof personality. Well, enough about these 2. The 4th character we're introduced to just barely appears at all. He does nothing, has no dialogue, and isn't even named. That being said, he is one of the generals who appears in the opening theme, so it probably won't be long until we get introduced to him for real. 5th, and finally, we're introduced to the most prominent villain of this episode, Agesen, a bubbly, trendy valley girl type lady who's super confident in her abilities and more than willing to rub Niji's failures in his face. This character is fun to watch and has a ton of stage presence while still being distinct from Niji's Tumblr sexy man type showman persona. Speaking of which, Niji is not pleased with Agesen bullying him. This is the first time we ever see him truly upset for an extended period of time. Usually he's suave and confident. Niji begs Usonoir to let him try and take down Pretty Cure once again, but much to his chagrin, Usonoir picks Agesen instead. By the way, when the villains end their conversation, Usonoir says "Lie, sir" at them, and they repeat the phrase back. This is pretty corny, not gonna lie. Especially since Usonoir is calling them sir. Aren't they supposed to be his inferiors? Well, enough about this gaggle of thieves. We return to our main heroes who have arrived at the store. This store has a very special glass ornament of a turtle that serves as its mascot. But oh no! While the gang is busy shopping, the ornament disappears. Pochitan's reaction to this is really cute, by the way, even if I still don't trust them. But anyways, whatever shall they do? At first, they think somebody done stole it. But Mikuru realizes that this might be like the tiara from episode 1. Somebody might have hidden the turtle ornament away to take with them later. Anna quickly finds said hiding space. She knows that it needs to be stored in a safe spot because it's fragile and made of glass, and what better place to do so than a bin filled with soft, cushiony plushies. The missing item has been recovered, so all well and good, right? But the girls in Jet Senpai want to know who hid the ornament away in the first place. After all, that person is probably a Phantom Thief, and remember, fighting the Phantom Thieves is their #1 priority. Anyone who is in the store is a suspect. This means our suspects are as follows. A female employee, a male employee, a female customer, a male customer who supposedly doesn't speak any Japanese, only English. None of these people appear in the opening theme, nor do they get any supplemental information on the official website like some of the characters from last episode did. Let's talk about that last suspect for a bit, by the way. This guy is supposedly foreign to Japan, yet he speaks with a very clearly Japanese accent. For some reason, Toei, as well as basically every other anime studio ever, has a strong aversion to casting actual English speakers in English-speaking roles, and it shows. I was willing to let this slide if it turned out the foreign guy was actually a disguised Phantom Thief, but spoiler alert, that is not the case. So who is the culprit? To find out, Anna and Mikuru must interrogate the suspects. They do this while writing down information in those pre-kit books that Jet Senpai got them last episode. As it turns out, both the notebooks and their pens have tiny versions that can easily fit in the girls' pockets, and they magically turn into their full-sized, usable versions. Anna and Mikuru have no qualms whatsoever about having these items transformed right in front of the customers, and the customers hardly bat an eye at this blatant display of magic. Jet Senpai even brags about what a genius he is for inventing them. I guess maybe they aren't magic and just really advanced technology. Come to think of it, Anna and Mikuru haven't been making any effort to hide Pochitan from any civilians, even though Pochitan is clearly not an ordinary animal. Granted, Pochitan hasn't actually done anything in front of anyone, so maybe everyone thinks they're a plushie. But between Pretty Cure being a secret to everyone and the pre-kit stuff not being a secret to everyone, it's hard to know what is considered normal in this world and what is considered top secret magical information. We're introduced to the pre-kit gummies. They're shown off in a very unsubtle attempt to get kids to buy their real-life equivalent. Anna and Mikuru practically break the fourth wall as they gush about how good they taste. But they don't just taste good. They also temporarily grant Anna and Mikuru the ability to understand any language. This extends not just to the foreign guy, but also a cat who lives in the store. Once again, nobody bats an eye at this incredibly advanced technology that doesn't even exist in the real-life 2020s, let alone the 1990s. Okay, now it's interrogation time. There are a lot of details and moving parts, and it was way too much for my tiny pea brain to keep track of. That's how I ended up being blindsided by the reveal of who done it. The culprit ends up being the male employee. For you see, when Anna found the turtle ornament buried in the plushies, the ornament was upside down. The male employee remarked at the time that all 6 of its appendages were still intact. The head, tail, and 4 legs. Why would he refer to them as all 6? That's so strange and weird. What's more, during the interrogation, the male employee said that he had picked out a particular set of curtains for the foreign guy that matched the ornament. These curtains, as Anna and Mikuru find out, didn't have turtles on them or anything. They had sunflowers. The girls conclude that the male employee thought the ornament was of a sunflower, not a turtle. But given that the ornament is the mascot of the store that he works at, how would he not know it was a turtle? The only way this makes sense is if he isn't actually an employee there at all. That's right, the male employee is in fact a disguised Agesen. Now that stealing without getting caught is no longer in the cards for her, Agesen simply steals the ornament again in plain view of everybody and makes a run for it. But it ain't long before the heroes catch up with her. So it's now Agasen's turn to summon a Haninda to fend them off. Despite being made out of a turtle ornament, the Haninda resembles a sunflower and even has plant-like vines. This will be important for later. It seems like the monster summoning process is based more on the villain's imagination than on the actual object being used. Also, during the monster summoning sequence this time around, hibiscuses are prominently featured. It seems that each of the villains is associated with a different flower. Niji's is a rose and Agasen's is a hibiscus. I'm excited to see what flowers the other villains have. Also, Agesen demonstrates a new ability. She creates a barrier of some type that separates herself, the Haninda, the Cures, and Jet Senpai from the outside world. I guess this allows Pretty Cure to fight a giant monster in the middle of town without causing a mass panic. It also means the girls don't have to worry about transforming in secret. Most importantly for Agesen, it probably lets her stay under the radar of as many people as possible so she can continue her unlawful activities. Interestingly, this barrier thingy is described as a new technology developed by the Phantom Thieves Guild. It seems Jet Senpai isn't the only Magitech genius around. I guess we'll never truly know where magic ends and technology begins in this universe. The fight gets off to a good start for Pretty Cure, but eventually, the Haninda gets the better of them by trapping them in its vines. See, I told you they were going to be important. Agesen thinks she's already won and is super smug. But the Cures simply rip the vines in half, allowing themselves to escape. This whole scene is animated really weirdly. It looks like they're floating in midair. Sure, these guys can jump really high and run on walls, but they aren't supposed to have the power of levitation. Well, whatever. They do the Cesar answer, finisher thingy, and send Agesen to angrily pack it up and go home. Rather than using a cool smoke bomb like Niji, Aga-sen summons a giant hibiscus, and when the hibiscus blows away, she's gone. This isn't as cool as a smoke bomb, but it's really interesting that each villain has their own method of fleeing the scene. I don't think that's something Pretty Cure has ever done before. So the girls de-transform and return the now de-monstered turtle ornament to its rightful abode. And what do you know? The real male employee has just returned. He says his female coworker sent him out to buy hibiscuses, but she says she never gave him such an order. Turns out, before our main characters arrived, Aga-sen had previously disguised herself as the female employee so she could order the male employee out of the way for a while. Not only is this a clever usage of disguise, it also marks the first time that a villain disguise isn't cross-dressing. And so the main characters all go back to the detective agency, and even though Jet Senpai cries over his poor wallet, he's still happy deep down that his junior employees are having a grand old time. I love the grumpy dad energy this guy gives off. He's seriously awesome. As for Mikuru, she's decided that now that she's an official detective and all, she's gonna make Anna her first official case. Up until now, all of the mysteries have been unofficial and off the books. Nobody ever actually signed up for the girls' services. But now that they've got their fancy schmancy notebooks, all that is about to change. It's now up to Mikuru to solve the mystery of how to get Anna back to the year 2027. And that's the episode. I tried to keep this video a bit briefer than the last two, but I ended up having a lot to say after all. This was a cute episode, and it was nicely animated other than that one part with the vines. I'm liking the new characters so far, and I love this show's format of having a new mystery to solve every episode. This season is seriously shaping up to be amazing, and I cannot wait to find out more information about all the characters that populate this wonderful world. With that being said, I'll see you all again when episode 4 graces the silver screen. Bye bye!